Welcome to English 9. Interpret the Information, Lesson 2, featuring the lesson Through Technology, Quarter 3, Weeks 4 and 5. I am Mr. Nelpon Sambalod and I'm your teacher for this course. How do you interpret the information you have listened to? Is it the same manner with the image that you are looking now, wherein you have there the information, you listen to it, under receiving, then after listening to it, you try to understand what you have listened to, and you are remembering some portion of it? And you are also evaluating, making connection of what you have listened to what you have already learned or knew or known. And after doing so, then that would be the only time that you will be providing feedback, because that feedback will be the determinant whether you have really understood or interpreted well the information that you have listened to. So let's see if really that's how we interpret the information that we are listening to as we go on discussing our lesson for this week. For the most essential learning competency for this week, we have Milk 8. Judge the validity of the evidence listened to. Enabling competency. Interpret the information listened to. What I need to know. Communication is a vital element of our daily lives. Regardless of the distance we have, we can still interact with each other. With the latest technology we have today, it allows us to put ourselves into the open world and express our thoughts and feelings to others. We can transfer our messages very fast, virtually travel or go to other places and connect to people around the globe. Technology is becoming more advanced and vastly contributes in many ways of quenching our thirst of connecting to the world. So that is very true as what we studied in the poem The Telephone by Edward Field, wherein we found out the advantages of having the existence of telephone, that really it makes us connected to our friends, to our family, to our loved ones, and to the world itself. Okay? So this lesson allows you to discover the extent to which you can connect to other people with different personalities and needs. In order for you to understand and be able to answer the following activities and questions, you have to listen very carefully in order to interpret the information you have heard using graphic organizers or visual representations. So, as we go on studying this lesson, have in mind that your interpretation of the information you have listened to will be that great if you will be using a technique called the use of graphic organizers or visual representations. What's new? Letter A. Before you listen, task 1, picture word association. What words can you associate with this picture? Complete the table below. So we have here a table having in the first column parts of a computer, and second column its uses or functions. So we are going to supply what are the parts of the computer that are being defined or being given descriptions. So number one, output device that displays information in pictorial form. What will be the answer using the image that is being presented there? It's monitor, correct. Number two, enables user to move a cursor smoothly for selecting, dragging, and clicking. So looking at the image again, what will be the answer? It is, okay, it's mouse. Number three, device used to enter text and contains keys for letters, numbers, and special characters. The answer is keyboard. Okay, that's keyboard. And number four, central processor that carries out instructions in the computer. It is called CPU. So now that we are able to provide the names for the parts of a computer that are being defined there, then we can visualize a table that has a complete detail regarding the parts of the basic parts of a computer and their functions. So this table is a good example or is an example of the graphic organizer that we are talking about earlier. Okay? So just like what you have learned in our lesson, previous lesson, talking about relevance and truthfulness, determining relevance and truthfulness of ideas presented in a material viewed, we should always activate our senses, because activating our senses will help us determine the relevance and truthfulness of the ideas being presented in a material viewed. Just like in this activity, we cannot instantly provide answers or complete the table without looking at the image of the computer set, which provides the answers for the table itself. So activating the sense of sight. So remember people, as what we talked about in the previous lesson, activating the five senses will help us better get or better determine the relevance and truthfulness of ideas presented in a material viewed, because we can see whether there is congruence or discrepancies in the material you are listening to and to the materials used on presenting the ideas in that material that you are viewing. So it's always good that we do activate our senses. It's the same with what somebody says that the food uh, tastes delicious, but as you smell it, it has a foul smell. So can you can you eat it having that foul smell, unless it's durian, okay? So that will be exemption to the rule, because durian, even though it has a foul smell, it tastes so delicious, okay? So that's the thing there. So you can check the relevance, the truthfulness of the ideas presented in a material being viewed or being presented to you that good as you activate your senses, okay? So let's go on. This is just task one uh, to 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 activate or to get your attention before we proceed on our next activity. So let's find out how is this related to our discussion. Since we already talked about graphic organizers, what do you think? Would this computer set would be that helpful? Would be the knowledge of the functions of the parts of a computer would be that helpful on crafting quality graphic organizers? So let's find out, okay? Because you know that graphic organizers require you to be that creative, and of course, nowadays being creative can be empowered by the use of or through the use of a computer. Okay, let's go on. What is it? In order for you to understand and interpret easily the information or the message of the listening text, you will use nonverbal illustrations. These nonverbal illustrations are called graphic organizers or visual representations. A graphic organizer is a visual and graphic display that depicts the relationships between facts, terms, and or ideas within a learning task. It helps learners organize their thoughts and ideas, sequence events, and interpret information or message from the text. Some examples of these are tables, charts or graphs, and diagrams. Graphic organizers of facts, information, or details from the listening text provides you with opportunities to learn faster and better. So, what's the advantage of knowing how to use graphic organizers or making use of graphic organizers dealing with information you've listened to for you to easily interpret them? You make use of graphic organizers because doing so will lead you to learn faster and better. So the image here presents some templates of graphic organizers. But do not worry, as we go on with the slides, we will be studying some of the commonly used graphic organizers. Letter A table or grid, is a systematic arrangement or grouping of related concepts or words in rows and columns that readily show their relationship and values. So I do believe that you are very much familiar dealing with a table or grid uh, under the use of graphic organizers, because typically information that we process in the lessons or in other activities of ours are being presented through the use of table or grid. And the good thing about using it, as said there, you have there already the related concepts or words written in rows or in columns, which show instantly the relationship between the concepts or words that you have in the table or grid. Letter B, chart or flow chart is a graphical representation of a process. It shows steps in sequential order, presenting the workflow or processes by connecting them with arrows. So the chart or flow chart is very effective whenever you are presenting steps or process in a certain presentation of yours. It's the same with your presentation in your researches whenever you are presenting there the step by step process on doing your research, okay, particularly the experimentation, if I'm not mistaken. So the chart or flow chart is very much recommended, okay. So those are the first two examples of graphic organizers. Let's proceed to the remaining examples. Number three, graph. A graph can be defined as a pictorial representation or a diagram that represents data or values in organized manner. It may be a line graph, a bar graph, or pie graph, just like what are shown on the image. So line graph, it's being done that way, the bar graph and pie graph. So usually you are dealing with pie graph when you were in elementary or even in grade 7 or grade 8, you were asked to make use of pie graph dealing with how you allocate your time within the day or the budget of the family or other subjects or topics of the pie graphs that you accomplish. The last example of graphic organizers that we are going to tackle is the Venn diagram. A Venn diagram is an illustration that uses circles to show the relationships among the things or finite groups of things. Venn diagram helps to visually represent the similarities and differences between the two concepts. But as you deal with a Venn diagram, you should be able to pinpoint the unexpected differences or similarities, or particularly similarities of the two topics or subjects that you are comparing in the Venn diagram. So you will be listing the differences on both sides and the similarities in the intersection point of the two circles. So usually you use a Venn diagram in English, Filipino subjects, also in other subjects. If it's used in English, usually you have the what? Comparison and contrast of two read texts or stories or poems, or it can be differences, similarities, or Venn diagram about the characters and their characterization in a story. Okay, so that's a good example of using a Venn diagram in interpreting the information coming from a listened text, coming from text listened to. Okay, so again, we have we have we have table, grid, chart, flow chart, graph, and Venn diagram. So we have four types of graphic organizers presented for today. So I do hope that you will make use of these graphic organizers as you interpret or before you interpret or give interpretation of the information coming from the materials you have listened to. So the more you will have a quality interpretation of information coming from materials you have listened to, if you will be applying the use of graphic organizers on organizing first your information or your understanding of the information coming from the listened materials, okay, or coming from what you have listened to. So let's go on. What's more, Now, listen very carefully to the text to be read to you by your teacher. First reading, you have to take down notes, important details to be used as your reference or guide in doing the following activities. For the second reading, try to complete the graphic organizers given for you. So you will be listening to the text that I'll be reading, but I will just be reading it once. So I am expecting that you will be jotting down so that there's no need for me to do the second reading. So for as the image, why I chose that, it has something to do with the material that I'll be reading to you. So I hope that you will be listening attentively and you can apply also what you have learned from our discussion talking about graphic organizers. So, as you listen to the materials that I'm going to read, you may have a visual representation, or you may have already there a graphic organizer for the organization of the ideas you are picking out or jotting down. Okay? So, let's proceed to the reading text. Exploring the Pros and Cons of Video Gaming, posted May 23, 2017 by Rebecca Bernstein. Video games are a trademark commodity in our modern, technologically driven culture. Although undoubtedly entertaining, considerable debate remains as to their relative positive or negative impacts on individuals and society. Even though studies regarding this issue are relatively new, they can still provide insights into the benefits and drawbacks of this popular pastime. Positive effects of video games. Numerous studies have examined the pros and cons of video gaming. Here are just a few that we have found video games provide distinct advantages to their players. Video games improved basic visual processes. According to Psychology Today, playing video games has been shown to increase players' ability to distinguish subtle differences in shades of gray, a phenomenon known as visual contrast sensitivity. This may also improve the eyesight of the visually impaired and help players increase their ability to visually detect the direction of movement. Video games can enhance executive functioning. Executive functioning is the term used for a person's ability to rapidly and effectively solve problems. Video games can help improve multitasking, increase mental flexibility, and even reverse the mental decline that occurs as people age. Video games can improve everyday skills. Playing video games has been found to enhance hand-eye coordination, lengthen attention spans, and improve both working memory and rapid decision-making abilities. Video games may help ease anxiety and depression. Both anecdotally and scientifically, video games have been shown to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression. For example, Scientific American reported that the game Tetris may actually ease the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. In forums such as Geek and Sundry, authors describe how video games may help those who have social anxiety disorder learn how to initiate relationships and learn about social cues. Negative effects of video games. While video games have been touted for their advantages, evidence also suggests that playing them may be detrimental. Video games can make people more violent. According to the Telegraph, researchers have found a direct link between violent video games and an increase in aggressive behavior. This applies particularly to shoot 'em up games that stimulate firearms. Video games may decrease players' ability to concentrate. A study published in Psychology of Popular Media Culture found a correlation between the length of time individuals play video games and their ability to remain focused. The study also suggested that playing video games may exacerbate the impulsiveness of individuals who already have this inclination. Video games can become addictive. A university study found that 1 in 10 youth gamers is addicted. Their playing habits cause family, social, school, or psychological damage. Treatment programs combating video game addiction have cropped up across the world, including in the United States, South Korea, and the Netherlands. Video games may increase depression and anxiety. While it's true that video games can help combat anxiety and depression, other studies have shown that they might cause or exacerbate these conditions situations instead. A study in cyberpsychology behavior and social networking, for example, found that fifth graders who play video games 2 or more hours a day are more likely to have symptoms of depression than those who play less. While the arguments on both sides of this debate continue, conclusions as to whether video games are ultimately good or bad lie with the reader. The truth is most likely somewhere in between, with allowances made for personal circumstances and preferences. What I have learned. After you listen, task 1, based on the listening text that you have heard, complete the table by giving the problem or disadvantages and benefits or advantages of video games. Let's talk about the negative effects or problems, disadvantages of video games. The first answer would be video games can make people more violent. Second, video games may decrease players' ability to concentrate. Third, video games can become addictive. And lastly, video games may increase depression and anxiety. For the benefits and advantages, let's have them. The first answer is video games improve basic visual processes. Second, video games can enhance executive functioning. Third, video games can improve everyday skills. And lastly, video games may help ease anxiety and depression. So, as you accomplish this table or this graphic organizer, particularly table, the more you can have a good interpretation of the information that you have listened to as you listened intently to your teacher or to me earlier. So, again, you must know how to use or you must apply using graphic organizer on processing information that is presented to you coming from a text being read. So, you do this especially if you are being given time to process the information that you listen to. So decide what should be the best graphic organizer that you will use so that you can really process or organize the information that you have listened to. So for the advantages and disadvantages of video games, it's better to make use of a table. Okay? Of a table. Or it can be what? A Venn diagram. Okay? So let's have the next activity. What's more, task 2. Based on the selection that you have heard, organize or arrange the details found in the text by using a flow chart. So you have here the flow chart talking about the main topic or idea of the text you listen to, then the details and explanations, and what's the concluding sentence. So as what I told you, you should really do the jotting down so that you have something to look back regarding details that are being asked from you. And I also mentioned that it would be better that as you do the jotting down of notes, then you have their visual representations, or maybe you already have chosen a certain graphic organizer, then you just keep on plotting the details coming from the text. Okay? So this time, I would like you to check the Google Classroom regarding the activity under what's more. Look for the Google link for you to accomplish this. So the main topic, pick it out. Then for the details and explanations, I think it would be okay that uh, you have their two big balloons for the advantages and disadvantages. Then under each, you have the four small balloons that will contain the four advantages and four disadvantages before you proceed to the concluding sentence. So dealing with a flow chart or doing a graphic organizer and you pick a flow chart, then of course, you should not miss an important detail, okay? Or there should be a smooth flow of the details in your flow chart or even if it's not a flow chart, there should be complete detail in the graphic organizer of yours. Okay, and you see the good thing on using graphic organizer, instead of dealing with the three slides there, uh, that are that are really containing many words in them. By just using a graphic organizer, you can just have their flow chart. Then you have the gist of that of that material that you listen to. So that's one of the advantages of knowing how to use graphic organizer on processing the information that you have listened to, be- and of course presenting it after. So it's very, advantageous learning how to use or equip graphic organizers. Okay, let's proceed to the next activity. What I can do. Task 3. If you are playing video games or computer games, then at the same time, you are also studying and helping your parents at home as well. How did you manage or budget your time? How many hours will you spend studying and doing your homeworks, helping household chores, and playing computer games? How much time will you spend sleeping? Make pie graph showing the number of hours you spend in studying, doing household chores, playing video computer games, and sleeping. Label each part of your graph. You can add color to emphasize the parts of your pie graph. So, a pie graph, of course, that will be a circle. Then you will be what? You will be presenting there uh, the allocated hours for sleeping, for schooling, and doing other things. Of course, you will have the what? You will have the 8 hours for the sleep, 8 hours for the sleep, and 9 hours for the schooling. So between the 9 hours, of course, you have the 4 hours, 8 to 12. Then 1 to 5, 8 hours. Then the 12 to 1 will be allotted for eating and power nap. So 8 plus 9, 17 hours already. Then you have the 3 hours for doing household chores, or personal things, including the bonding with your family members. So you do it that way. Then you do still have 4 hours left. What are you going to do? So the 2 hours can be allocated to playing computer games. Playing computer games or checking on your social media accounts. Then the remaining 2 hours can be added to what? Can be added to number of sleep. So you can have 8 to 10 hours sleep, or you have a buffer. The buffer 2 hours can be allocated to doing performance tasks, since maybe you cannot finish doing the school activities within the given hour. So you have there 2 hours for the preparation of performance task or other related school outputs. Okay, so the pie graph will be showing there your 24-hour activity within the day, and of course it varies depending on what day. Okay, so the thing here is that you should be guided by your pie graph regarding your activity within the day. Okay? So that would be uh, the activity under what I can do. Summary. Before we continue with our journey up to the last part of this module, let us review first what are those concepts that we have discussed here. When we are going to interpret the information or message that we have listened to, again, we used non-verbal illustrations, and these are called graphic organizers or visual presentations. So the question is, when we are going to interpret the information or message that we have listened to, uh, as we listen to the information, then we can do outright the graphic organizer that we have decided to do as we listen to the information being listened to. Okay? Or again, we use nonverbal illustrations, and these are called graphic organizers or visual representations. So, such illustrations as tables, charts, and graphs are very useful and helpful for us to understand better and faster the message or information from the selection. So, that's the good thing if we know how to use graphic organizers on processing the information that we have listened to before we finally give our interpretation about the materials listened to. Okay? So that will be for the summary. Assessment. Post test. Listen very carefully as your teacher reads to you another story and do the following activities below. So before I read the text, I would like you to be reminded to use graphic organizers on processing the information that you will be listening to coming from the text. Okay? So do so that you can give best interpretation regarding the message or information coming from the text or the text you have listened to. Okay? So the text is values. A farmer discovered a marble statue while plowing his field. It was very beautiful. He took it to a collector and offered it for sale. The collector, who loved all beautiful things dearly, bought it at a large price. As the farmer walked home with his money, he said to himself, how much life this money means. How can anyone give all this for a dead carved stone buried in the earth for 1,000 years? The collector was looking at his statue. He said, it is mine, all mine. What a beauty, what life, the dream of what a soul. How can anyone give all this for money, dead and dreamless? Khalil Gibran, adapted. So let's proceed to the activities. Answer the following. Number one, describe the farmer and the collector in the story. What makes them different with each other? How are they similar to some extent? Use the Venn diagram in your answer. So we have here the Venn diagram, the farmer. What can we say about the farmer? The farmer values money than the marble statue. And we can say also that the farmer is just being practical on his decision. Remember, he's a farmer. What is he going to do with that marble statue? Having there the circumstance that he needs the money to give life to his family. Okay? So we cannot question the farmer why he values money more than the marble statue. Okay? So the word that we can associate with the farmer is the word practical, okay, or prudence. How about for the collector? The collector is someone who values more the marble statue than money. For he's a collector. He has the taste for art and he knows that the marble statue aside from being expensive if it will be sold, then it has the art in it. So what could be the adjective that we can associate to the collector? You have there the word sophisticated. He's sophisticated for he has the taste when it comes to artwork. How about the similarities? For the similarities, they are both happy in the end. So there's eminent happiness in the characterization of the farmer and of the collector. So that's the thing there, class, that in every decision we make on certain things that we value in life, then let's see to it that we will be happy at the end. Okay? So that will be for number one. Number two, compare the two men's regard for money and for statue. Use the table for this. So let's talk about the regard for money and regard for statue of the farmer and collector. Regard for money, the farmer admires money and for him, money is happiness. For the collector, does not value much money. So let's have the regard for statue. The farmer values money more than the marble statue, while the collector admires things like marble statue and it gives him happiness. Okay, so that will be for number two. Now, for number three, if you will have more money, what will you do with your money to help your family, your community, your friends, and relatives? Church, charity, and yourself. Make a pie or bar graph showing the percentage of each category. So, dealing with that, I would like you to check the Google Classroom and look for the Google form link on doing activity number three. So, it's easy. You will just decide if it will be a pie chart that you will be using or a bar graph. So as if you have you decide as if you have a 1 million peso extra money. So where are you going to allocate it? So you divide it. How much or what percent you will be giving to the community, to your friends, to charity work, to relatives, to what? To your family. Okay? So as simple as that. So just check the Google Classroom regarding that activity. What I can do, getting into life. The author is talking about valuing something. So, how do you value your life? Draw a picture or make a poster about how you value your life. So, after listening to the story Values by Khalil, now it's high time for you to provide interpretation of the information that you have listened to. So, you will be doing it by means of making a poster. So I'll read the rubric for you to be guided on how to do your poster. Making a poster rubric. So I only have here a poster for rubric making. So class, I would like you to disregard the draw a picture, okay? Instead, focus on the idea that you will be making a poster. So what are the criteria? Required elements. You will have 4 points if the poster includes all required elements as well as additional information. Labels, another 4 points. All items of importance on the poster are clearly labeled with labels that can be read from at least 3 feet away. So, not necessary for the 3 feet away. Anyway, you will be attaching it in the Google Classroom, in the Google form. So, graphics relevance. All graphics are related to the topic and make it easier to understand. All borrowed graphics have a source citation. So, that will be 4 points again. So, attractiveness. The poster is exceptionally attractive in terms of design, layout, and neatness. So, another 4 points. And the last 4 points that will complete the 20 points, the grammar. There are no grammatical, mechanical mistakes on the poster. See to it that the spellings of the labels are correct. Okay, so for the material, you can use short bond paper, long bond paper, Oslo paper, you can use 1/8 illustration board or 1/4 postcards or cartolina. And of course, make use of drawing material so that you can add color on your poster. Okay? So that would be for the activity, that would be the rubric for your poster making. Thank you. Have a good day and God bless us all.